Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tips. My name is Julian, and in today's episode, we're going to be doing something that a lot of people have been requesting. This video is a sell high and buy low video if you want to be doing trades in your leagues. A lot of people have also been asking for a sustainable, non-sustainable video. This video will basically be that, right? Anybody that's sell high for me is unsustainably high. Anybody that's buy low is unsustainably low. I figured now, since over 2 weeks of the season have gone by, now is the time to buy players that are doing really badly but are unsustainably low, and to trade players that are doing really well but are unsustainably high. So for this video, because it's a very important one, I'm going to be talking a little bit about advanced stats so you guys know exactly what's going on with your players who are doing really well and your players who are not doing so well. A stat that I'm going to reference particularly is on-ice shooting percentage, which is basically his team's shooting percentage in any situation where he's on the ice. This should average to around 10%. If it's well above that, it's pretty unsustainable. If it's well below that, then it's something that could definitely increase. I'm also going to be talking about PDO, which is literally a measure of luck. A PDO over 100% means you're quite lucky. A PDO below 100% means you're not getting the best luck sometimes. So before we get started, guys, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and leave a comment down below and let me know after you watch this video what trades you're thinking of making, and I'll let you know down in the comments if I think you should make the trade or not. Let's jump right into the content now. So first on the list, guys, is Kevin Shattenkirk, and he's doing very well. He has 6 points, 3 goals, 3 assists through 6 games so far. That's super unsustainable. The dude only had 15 points in 55 games last year, and that's with getting some top power play time before Drysdale joined the team. Right now, he's 2.5 goals above expected. His current shooting percentage is 30%, which is just insane. And all to say, he's not keeping up his current pace. He's a guy who you could probably get a decent amount in a trade, so I would trade him now before he starts to regress. Next is his counterpart on defense in Anaheim, Cam Fowler. And his on-ice shooting percentage is 12.7, while his career average is 9.4. So it's not too much higher, but it's definitely significant. And he also has a PDO of 103, so he is getting a little bit lucky. To me, at best, he's a guy that's going to get a point every couple games with a bad plus-minus. But honestly, I doubt he even hits 35 points this year. So if you can deal him for someone better, do so. If you can get a Noah Dobson, that would be amazing. Next is Braden Holtby, and he's off to a great start. He seized the starting job in Dallas, which is absolutely great. But what I'm worried about with Holtby is Bishop's return. Ben Bishop is going to be coming back at some point this season, and he is a very good goalie, and they could easily give him the starting job as soon as he comes back. Also, even before Bishop comes back, there's Anton Khudobin, who's literally breathing down his neck, because Khudobin's also a very good goalie. So that job, while he has the starting job right now, it's very volatile, so he could lose it at any time and could lose it quickly. Next is Anze Kopitar, and right now he has a league average on-ice shooting percentage, more or less, but that's because Arvidsson is shooting a lot. But his personal shooting percentage is about 3 times higher than what it usually is. So because of that, his overall production will go down a little bit, which is why you could sell him pretty high right now, since he's a top 10 player in a lot of leagues. He's not going to stay a top 10 player in fantasy, not even close. I think he'll stay maybe top 50, top 60 or so, but definitely not top 10. So if you can get an elite player for Anze Kopitar right now, I would absolutely do that. Next is Danton Heinen of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I actually like Heinen a lot, and I think he is an underrated player. But when Pittsburgh Stars come back from injury, he's going to be pushed further and further down the depth chart, and there's absolutely no way that he can continue this point per game pace that he's at. As it is, his on-ice shooting percentage is over 20%, and his personal shooting percentage is 30%. So try to trade him to someone who thinks that this is sustainable. His PDO, his luck, is 115 right now, so that's definitely not going to stay the whole year. He's not going to stay that lucky the entire season. He is very high on the PDO scale right now. So if you can trade Danton Heinen for an asset that may be more valuable, I would absolutely do that. Next is Tyler Bertuzzi of the Detroit Red Wings, and through 5 games, he has 6 goals and 3 assists, which is an insane start. His shooting percentage, though, is a ridiculous 42.9%. I've never seen anything so high. He's scoring on nearly half of his shots right now, which is not even close to sustainable. His on-ice shooting percentage is 18.8, which isn't quite as crazy, but it's still very high. If you deal him now at his peak, you may be able to get a very, very valuable asset for him, because in a lot of leagues, he's a top 20 player right now. Next is Cam Atkinson of the Philadelphia Flyers, who's also off to a really, really great start with 4 goals and an assist through 5 games. His personal shooting percentage right now is 28.6, which is just nuts because the league average is usually about 10%. So that's not going to be sustainable. His on-ice shooting percentage is 27.3, which is also super high. And his PDO, his luck, is 127% right now, which is just absolutely insane. So no, Cam Atkinson is not going to keep up this insanely hot pace. Will he have a good season? Undoubtedly, but you could probably trade him for someone who is a lot more valuable. Next is Jacob Slavin, who I recently featured on my drops video, but hey, the dude's got 5 assists through 5 games, so you may actually be able to flip him for a valuable asset. Right now, though, he's a 14% on-ice shooting percentage, which is not going to be sustainable for the entire season. So basically, he's getting a little bit lucky to start the year. This is not going to keep up. Next is Gustav Forsling of the Florida Panthers, and he's someone that I have on here because he doesn't really get any power play time on Florida, but has managed 4 points through 6 games so far. Plays in the second pairing with Radko Gudas, and right now he's got a 15% on-ice shooting percentage, which is quite high. And if you're able to deal him for someone like a Noah Dobson, I would do that in a heartbeat. Forsling is not going to continue this pace. His PDO right now is over 112, so he's getting lucky, so deal him while you can. Next is Logan Couture, who has an on-ice shooting percentage of 14.5 and has a PDO of 110. So he is definitely getting a little bit lucky to start this season. Will he have a good year? I think so. Timo Meier is going to have a very solid season this year, and he's playing on the same line with him and the same power play with him. Do I think that you're going to be able to trade him for a more valuable asset? I think so as well. I don't mind dealing Logan Couture for someone who may have a little bit more value long term. Jumping into my buy low candidates, and my first 3 candidates are from the Montreal Canadiens. They're off to an insanely bad start, and I think they will turn things around to an extent. The first guy I got is Cole Caulfield, who only has 1 assist through 6 games. His on-ice shooting percentage is only 4%, which is incredibly low, and it's bound to turn around. His PDO is also 93.5%, which is quite unlucky as well. Cole Caulfield will turn it around and will have a decent season. I'm not too worried about him just yet. Next is Nick Suzuki, who also only has 1 point through 6 games, but his on-ice shooting percentage is 2. Like, that's one of the lowest on-ice shooting percentages I've ever seen. 2 is just ridiculously low, and his PDO is 87, which just means he's getting insanely unlucky. Suzuki is an elite talent in the NHL, and he will absolutely turn his season around. So you go trade for Nick Suzuki right now because he is going to have a good season. I'm almost sure of it. Next is Jeff Petrie, who literally has no points through 6 games. His on-ice shooting percentage is 3.6, which is very, very low, and only a 90% PDO. So if you need a defenseman, go ahead and trade for Jeff Petrie. He's someone who is manning the top power play in Montreal and should definitely get a lot more points than he's been getting. So if you need a defenseman, go out and fetch yourself Jeff Petrie. You probably don't have to give up a whole lot for him, and he's someone who will definitely be able to fill your hole on defense. Next is Roope Hintz, who's someone that I drafted in one of my leagues, and Roope Hintz is off to a pretty poor start. Only 1 point through 6 games, but his on-ice shooting percentage is 4.7, and that's bound to get better. Roope Hintz is just way too talented of a player to continue at this very poor pace. I expect him to turn things around, so if you want to trade for a guy like that, now is a pretty good time to do so. Next is John Klingberg of the Dallas Stars, who only played 2 games before getting injured. I don't expect him to be out too much longer, and as soon as Klingberg gets back in the lineup, he's a top power play guy guaranteed in Dallas. So he's going to have a very big role and should put up some decent numbers this year. Next is Jacob Chikrin, and he's off to a very poor start. No points through 6 games, and he's a -10. Okay, So if you're in a plus-minus league, maybe don't trade for Jakob Chychrun. I don't expect his plus-minus to get that much better, but his on-ice shooting percentage right now is 0. It's the lowest I've ever seen. His PDO is 83.3, which means his luck is just incredibly, incredibly bad. Like, this is going to turn around, and once things start going better for him, he's going to get that top power play spot back from Gostisbehere, and he should have a pretty good season offensively. I'm not too worried about Jakob Chychrun. You probably have to give up next to nothing for him right now. I would absolutely do that. Next is Shea Theodore, and like the Golden Knights as a whole, he's off to a pretty slow start. Only 1 point through 5 games. His on-ice shooting percentage is pretty low, only 4.1, and his PDO is at 93%. So he's getting unlucky, and especially once Pacioretty and Stone return, they're going to be on his top power play, and he's definitely going to start putting up some pretty solid numbers. I'm not too worried about Shea Theodore. If you can get him at a bargain, do so right now. Next is Alex Pietrangelo, and he's had a pitiful start to the season, right? -7 through 5 games, no points. His on-ice shooting percentage, though, is 2.5, which means, it's definitely going to increase. And his PDO is 89.3, so he's had an insane amount of bad luck to start the year. His peripherals will definitely keep coming, and I'm not too worried about Pietrangelo. He's playing right now on the top power play with Marchessault, Riley Smith. Next is Cale Makar, and he's possibly the best fantasy defenseman in point-based leagues. So if the person who drafted him is getting frustrated, and you think that you may be able to get him at a discount, I would go ahead and grab him right now. He only has 3 points through 5 games, and he's a -8 through those 5 games. His PDO, though, is 89%, so he is getting unlucky, and things should definitely turn around for Cale Makar. If you can grab him at a discount, like I said, do so now. Next is Alex DeBrincat, and he's -9 over the first 6 games of the season, with only 3 points in those 6 games. His on-ice shooting percentage right now is only 6.9%, so that's going to go up a lot. And his PDO is 88, so he's getting quite unlucky. Now, Chicago has not been good. Eventually, they're going to turn things around, whether it takes a coaching change or whatever it takes. Chicago will turn things around to some extent, and DeBrincat is going to have a solid season. So if whoever owns DeBrincat is getting frustrated, Chicago's not winning, he's not producing that much, and you're able to get him at a nice discount, I'm going to go do that right now. So I added a couple bonus buy low players for you guys, and first I have Nikita Kucherov. So go and see in your league, how is the player who rostered Kucherov doing? If he's 0-2 and he's desperate for some wins, you may be able to grab Kucherov off him for next to nothing, right? If he's desperate for wins and he doesn't know when Kucherov's going to come back, he needs to win some games, so you may be able to get Kucherov for a mid-roster player, right? I think Kucherov is probably going to be back 6 to 8 weeks at the very earliest, and it could be longer than that, right? There's a chance that he misses the whole season. But if you can get him at a real discount, I think it's worth the risk. And last I have Marc-Andre Fleury, who's just having a pitiful start to the season. I'm not 100% sure if he's going to turn things around. Chicago is not looking good right now. But at least I don't think Marc-Andre Fleury is going to continue as bad as he's been to start the year. You could probably get Marc-Andre Fleury for next to nothing. And if you're paying next to nothing for Fleury, there's not too much risk there. If he turns it around, great. If he doesn't, well, you probably didn't pay too much for him anyway. I would probably take the risk depending on who you are trading for him. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. Please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and guys, leave a comment down below. Let me know what kinds of trades you're thinking of making, and I'll be sure to answer you. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tip.